we're going to start a new project. We're going to make a hand warmer muff using this pattern, and I'm going to make it out of beaver. So here's my beaver skin. It's, not real big. Here's my arm, my forehead, my forearm from my elbow to my fingertip. Kind of gives you the length, and the width is pretty much about the same. So I went ahead and closed my leg openings, rear and top, and then I closed up by the face. I took the ears and the eyes out and I closed this up. I think it gives the top of the skin a pretty sunburst effect, and we might use that. We won't know till we get it wet and stretched. So I'm also going to mark the center of my skin, and this is small, so that'll be easy to do. I'm just gonna lay it in half, find the center, and run my pen down the center back from the neck, the top, to the bottom. Now what I did was I prepped my nailing board and I marked out my pattern, that both pieces, this is the back, and that's going to be the front. And I use a Homicide board, which is compressed cellulose fiber. You can buy it at Menards, Lowe's, I think Home Depot carry it. And it's just easy to staple into. Your staples just pop in real easy, and to take them out, it's just nice. So, and I can use a 1/4-inch staple. For thicker and harder things, I do use an electric stapler, but similar to this or this, and I like it because it's cordless and it works well. Otherwise, I just use a Pilot 104, and the staples are cheap in this, so that's the number of the staple refill I have to buy. It's a chisel point. Otherwise, it's a Pilot 104. I don't know if you can see that on there. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take our beaver skin and we're going to wet it. And I use a wetting solution from Samuel Bauer Unlimited. It's called Ease Leather. It's a leather softener, and what it does is it just kind of permeates the fibers in your leather a little bit more completely, so it gives you, I think, more stretch. You can use water. Water is just fine. And we're going to wet this, and then we're going to let it sit. So just for me, I'm going to mark the center of this. I pretty much know what I'm doing, so there we go. So now I'm going to take my wetting brush, and I just use this is a shoe shine brush, natural bristle. I think I got it on eBay. I've probably had this about 5 years. So mix your wetting solution per the instructions. It's concentrate. It is like 1 cup per gallon of water. You want it to look kind of like that. It's just kind of a milky, buttery looking. And I might even have a little bit too much solution in there. So if there's any left over, I just pour it into another carton and save it for my next project. So we're going to thoroughly wet this. After we have it wet, we're going to fold it together on itself all the way over and massage that solution into the inside part, the interior on that leather, so that we're sure it's all nice and soaked. So I have to finish doing that, and then we're going to let it rest for probably about 20 minutes. So I'm going to get this taken care of, and then I'll be right back. So I've let this rest for a little while, and then I hand stretched it and pulled length and a little bit of width. So now what I've got is I put my pattern on here, and you can see that's going to be one side on the quarter, and this is going to be the other side on the quarter. So I went over here and flipped it over, and I marked it. I put a row of pins in where that's going to come down. That'll be one side. And then I move this down, and this will be the other side. So I am going to cut this apart, and I transferred my pin marks to the inside. So I'm going to cut this now on that line, and I'm going to nail the top half separate from the bottom half. And I'll show you that after I get that started. I laid out my top section on the pattern that I had drawn underneath, and it fit great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the bottom half. And what I did was, that's the line I separated it on up here, and I'm going to match my center to my center here, and then I'm going to hand stretch this a little bit more of a curve on the leather. I'm going to nail my top down first, and I'm going to go just above this line like that and nail around this curve on both sides, and then I'm going to stretch my leather out and down, and it should work out great. And you can see I've already done that to a certain extent. I hand pulled that. So after I've got that so it covers my line, which I've already exceeded, you can just see the way it's laying out. I'm going to lay my pattern back on top so I've got another good visual, and finish nailing it down around the perimeter. So this dries overnight. It might dry in a couple hours, but I usually leave it overnight, and then I'll remark the pattern on it completely all the way around. And what's nice on this style muff is technically it's reversible. This could be the front side, this could be the back side. It's going to look good either way. So now both sides of my muff are nailed out. That's going to be side 1, and this is going to be side 2. And I think I got a much better stretch out of this doing it in 2 pieces versus 1 piece, because I was able to get this relaxed and pulled around for the top section, we'll call it, better than if I would have left it in 1 piece going width. It just made sense. So anyway, this is how it looks. And then it's going to dry, and we'll be back. Next step is to, I might put some tipping on the top edge around here and the top edge around there. And then I'll mark it, tape it with cold tape, and cut it out. Next step I like to do is I like to put tipping, which is an aniline powdered dye. It comes in several colors. I happen to have more of a browny, dark brown black right now. And I mix it, this happens to be in a jug. Give it a swish. It's mixed with denatured alcohol, not rubbing alcohol. And I just take and tip my container, wet my brush, and put it on the turn lines. So I had temporarily marked where my pattern was going to go on here, and I'm just going to do the edge where the wrists are and the top edge. The bottom edge isn't going to show because this hangs down. So if you wanted to, you could do the bottom edge, but on this particular piece, we don't need to. This dries really fast because it's alcohol based, and it just permeates the leather with that dye. It doesn't dye the hair, so that when you turn the edge of the leather, that the bright color of the leather, which right now is this almond color, won't show through on a turn edge. So it's smart to do, and so this is how it's done. You just wet your brush in the dye, put it on with a paintbrush, try to keep your fingers clean. I usually wear gloves, and I like to do it when it's still on the board. You can do it when it's totally dry. This is probably about 3/4 dry, or you can do it like right now when it's damp. It usually saturates a little bit better the drier that it is, but this saturates pretty good right now. So these are dried overnight, and now we're just going to take them off the board. What's easy is that these, if you put a piece of paper underneath, it just lifts the staples right off. So, and those 1/4-inch staples are a breeze. So now that's going to be one side, and this is going to be the other side. So I think they're pretty. It'll look nice. So I'm going to mark them. This got a little bit of, I have to glaze it. Glazing, you take spray water, light spray of water, and you brush the hair in one direction. This one didn't get too rumpled, but when you move it around, the hair gets trapped underneath, and you just want to get it going in one direction before you cut it out, because it's easier to do now. So I did have this marked, and I'm going to tape the edges, trim it, and then the next step is we're going to join it. I centered my pattern on my fur, marked it, or double marked it, I guess you could say, and because I kind of had it marked before. And then what I've done is I've taken and used cold tape. It's a self-adhesive fabric type tape that you can buy at a Samuel Bauer Unlimited, which is a furrier supplier. And they're in Tennessee. You can go online, Google them. And this tape, it peels very easily. And you just set it down on your line that your outside perimeter. Press it down. Of course, now it's not gonna cooperate. And put it along your edge. Once you've got it to a corner, just tear it or cut it off. And what this helps is when you sew, it keeps your edge from stretching and gives you also a nice suitable edge that's kind of sturdy when you cut. Now when you cut, you want to raise your material up off the table so that you're not cutting directly down through against this into the table, because you'll cut your fur fabric off. You don't want to cut any of this under fur off. And the rule of thumb is that if your hair goes down, you cut in the direction that the hair flows. On the sides, we're going to cut from the top here down. Around the bottom, that's around the bottom. You just lift and elevate just like you did your side, and you cut around. And then the top, you're going to do the same thing. That top edge cut down and around. After you've got it cut, then what we do is I like to take my fur brush, and I like to brush out any loose hair that's on that edge, because I don't want to catch that when I'm sewing. And so now, after we get this completed and cut out, we can go to this machine and join it up. One tip I like to do is that when I have an edge that is going to be at the top and the hair is going down, and the other side the hair is going down, so basically that top edge is going to get a lot of action when you have it on. This could be at the top of a shoulder seam. This could be at the center back of a collar. And in order to keep that seam met, where you aren't going to get a separation there, what I like to do is is cut a piece of felt. This is just dime store felt. It's thin, but it gives a little bit of a cushion that seam. And I just laid my pattern out on the top. Your felt only needs to be about 1.5 inches, 2 inches on this particular thing. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be that wide, like center back of a collar, maybe 1/2 inch. So I just marked it out, and I'm just going to cut this piece off, and I've got it on the double. So that will go in that seam edge at the top when I sew my muff together. So all we're doing is we've got one piece of felt on one side, one piece of felt on the other side of our original seam, and we're just sewing it from the opposite direction back to the starting point. So this will stay in there. If you want to, you can score this a little bit after it's in. That doesn't hurt. It's going to, but we cut it on the curve, so it should maintain the shape quite nicely and not be a bother when it's inside. But if you want to score it, you can. So we're going to finish doing this, and then we're going to sew the bottom. Our muff is joined together across the top and across the bottom. So basically you have a tube. If you want to turn it inside out at this time to make sure that you don't have any skips or gaps in your seams, you can, because the next step is going to pretty much enclose this. So now is a good time to check it. What we're going to do next is we are going to cut our lining and our cuff inserts. So we'll be right back.